also had to come to that place in my like that mindset of I'm not competing on price. Like it's just bottom line. Like if that's the competition, I'll lose almost every time. Getting them away from just that, like, so how much is a shoot? And getting them to start thinking like, well, when you think about a shoot, what is that, what does that mean to you? Like, what are you looking for in a photo shoot? What are you wanting? And there are a lot of people that I think aren't even aware of what they need until we kind of help guide them.
Yeah. Yeah, because all they really know is prices. It's like I don't know what I need, but I know that I'm going to have to spend money. So that's where I'm going to start. Hello and welcome to episode 240 of the Wisdom and the Tangents podcast. I am your host, John Mansfield, and today I have Tiffany Crenshaw on the show with me today. She is a lifestyle, newborn, and family photographer based out in Huntsville, Alabama, and she's also an educator who has a passion for running a profitable and joy-filled business that serves her clients and, more importantly, serves her family, which is the heart behind all of her education. Today, Tiffany and I are talking about how you can turn price shoppers into dream clients by creating an elevated client experience. I talk a lot about client experience on this podcast, and Tiffany just brings in so much good tips and strategy today. So if you're just like, John, you talk about client experience all the time, definitely tune in for this one because Tiffany's bringing all sorts of different tips and strategies for you to just like connect with your leads even before they reach out to you, connect in the whole nurturing process, cultivating an amazing client experience, and growing the good name of your business to get those referrals. So let's take a listen to my conversation with Tiffany Crenshaw. There we go. Tiffany, welcome to the show. I'm excited to talk to you, to talk about this topic. I think this is going to be a lot of fun.
I'm also super excited.
Yeah. And I love that like we just like straight into banter, which is great. These are always the ones that I'm like, cool, this guest, we're going to connect. This is going to be fun.
None of that awkward silence.
No awkward silence,
good.
no me trying to pull you through the conversation. But yeah, could you give us a little, I know I just like, for the listeners, I just did a little intro for you and like where you're based and located and what you do, but could you give us a little like your insight into what you do?
Yeah, so I am a lifestyle, newborn, and family photographer primarily, and I am based out of Huntsville, Alabama. So we moved here in 2020 from South Carolina. We actually moved March 1st of 2020. So we all know what was happening. It was a great time to move.
Great time to move.
It was the best time. So you moved here with my two daughters. They're 11 and 8 right now. And then we picked up a bonus baby. I say picked up. I mean, I had him, but he was a surprise. So now we have 3. We have 2 olders and a toddler. And I run the photography side of my business as well as we homeschool. And then I educate other photographers. So that's what I do.
Nice. That is great. That's the life. That's a fun time.
It is a fun time.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are fun ages too. Even like we're, let's see, is your youngest, were they a COVID baby? Like in that? Like...
He was not. He's a year and a half. So he was born in 23.
Gotcha.
So not a COVID baby, that like post-COVID, he's a post-COVID baby. So we'll see what that even looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. Because our youngest, we found out that my wife was pregnant in January, like around our anniversary, like the end of January of 2020. And then everything shut down and she was born in October. And we were just like, we are on our own. There's no one around.
It was a crazy time to be alive.
Yeah.
It's a crazy time.
Yeah. But okay. I do want to talk a little bit about like time going back over the years and everything, has there been something like a lesson or mindset or something that you were just like, this changed everything for me, that you would either like want to tell your younger self or just share with everyone today?
Yeah. So really, even though it was a crazy time to try to move in 2020.
Mm,
We didn't know it was going to be crazy because we moved 3 weeks before the pandemic started. And so, I had a lot of plans when I got here in terms of how I was going to restart my business, and all of that kind of got shut down. So I had a lot of time to really, on the back end, kind of decide, like, what do I want this business to look like when I'm able to get back out there. And when I was in South Carolina, I wasn't charging enough. I was feeling like I was very burned out, especially in the fall season. I remember one fall just like sitting in my car before a session, just crying. I just didn't even want to get out of the car. I was just overwhelmed with the amount of work. And so during that like isolation time, I really worked on getting my prices to where I felt they needed to be.
mm-hmm.
And I kept coming back to that idea of what makes it worth it for me to leave my kids at home? Like, what is going to make it worth it for me to have to leave my house to go and be with other families? And if I'm going to do that, it has to be worth it. And so I really wish when I had started, although we all start, right? We all start somewhere and we all have to kind of build and grow. But I wish I had started with the mindset of not charging based on emotion or based on what everybody else is charging, but
Yeah.
making it a very like it's a very logical decision. It's not a decision based on feeling, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like a lot of times we do like it's just emotion. Or like a lot of my early pricing was based on my money mindset and
Hmm.
how I viewed money. And I was like, well, obviously, no one's going to pay more than $150 for a photographer for an hour. $150 an
Right.
hour? No way. And like I had that mindset because I wouldn't at that time. Like that was not, even though I valued the photography, even though I valued other photographers, I did not have that budget. And
Right.
like that was a hard thing for me to like get through that mindset of, oh, like maybe I'm not my ideal client, so I shouldn't
Right.
be selling to myself. I need to like one, take the emotion out of pricing, like you said, of, oh well, I don't feel like I should charge more than this, or I don't want to like price gouge people or anything, but have an educated, what's my cost of doing business? Oh,
Right.
okay, I need to charge at least that,
Right.
because otherwise I'm losing money every time I go out the
Right.
door. Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah, what's your cost of doing business? And then how
mhm.
many sessions do you want to do? And that was a big one for me because once I
Yeah.
actually had written down, like, this is the amount of sessions I want to do per month, and then divide it like that calculation between that and my cost of doing business, that number was pretty high. And I was like, oh gosh, like that is shocking to me.
Yeah.
But I'm like, the numbers don't lie. So either I want to work more or I need to charge more. Like it's just one of the two. So, you're right, it's a mindset. And I think as photographers, I feel like we have some of the like most fixed mindsets. I don't know why we have such a hard time like breaking free of that fear of like I can't charge this, nobody will pay it, or I'm not worth it, but we really are hard on ourselves.
hmm Yeah, we're hard on ourselves for that, and I think like as just kind of society and like what people have said about artists, of like that whole starving artist mindset of like, oh well, I chose to be an artist. I chose to
Right.
use my craft instead of getting a 9 to 5 and working in a cubicle. Like this is my choice. I'm gonna be a starving artist. It's okay. At least I'm doing what I'm loving. And like that mindset's like no, you don't have to be starving. You can
Right.
you can do this and actually run a successful business and make more than you were at that cubicle. And yeah, there's a over the years. I mean, I had started in like 2013 is when I started the business,
Okay.
legally, and
Right.
it's like just looking back over those early years, I was like, there's so many mindsets that were just holding me back. That were just like, I can't do this because, or even like that money mindset of I can't charge this. No one's going to pay this. And then the first person who does, once you raise your prices and you're like, I'm charging over $1,000 for a wedding. I don't know. And then someone books you, you're like, oh,
You're like,
there's
oh,
there are people out there. Okay, cool. Yeah, I
right.
feel
And you try not to look surprised. Like if you're actually, on the phone with them or like,
yeah.
I don't know, face to face, you try not to sound like shocked. You just
Hmm.
like, of course, yes, naturally you wanted to. But
Yeah.
inside you're like, oh my
Yeah. Yeah, like the inside out characters in your head are just like running in
God. Yes.
circles around the table, just like they said yes, we've booked this thing. That's
Yes.
insane. Yeah, I feel like that like every time that I raise my prices because I'm just like, I don't know. That is a lot. That is more. But then I have to remind
Right.
myself like one like my the experience that I'm offering my clients has elevated over the years.
Right.
I'm not the same guy with that, entry level camera with a kit lens and, not a lot of experience and just like, I don't know, we'll just kind of wing it. I don't need a timeline.
Right.
We're good. And that kind of stuff. I'm like, I am so much more prepared and much more of a resource for my clients now, and that is valuable. And we
Yes,
can
it
we can
is.
charge for that.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. How? I mean, kind of talking about that, like what we do, what we offer for our clients. Um, how can we like elevate our client experience from just kind of like the standard, especially like for like let's kind of focus on like family photography of just like I'm going to show up and I'm going to take photos of your family. Like that is
Right.
base level. That's
Yes.
it. Where can we go from there? I know there's so many places to go from there, but like what's a good kind of step in the direction of elevating that client experience?
Yeah. So, and I think one of the things that also gave me some of that confidence in my pricing was knowing the value of what I was offering to my clients.
Mm,
And realizing that I'm offering something that most people are, in my area are not offering. Either they, aren't interested in offering that way, or they're actually not able to because of their workload, which is kind of, how we talked about that burnout and overworking yourself.
yeah.
And so I think once I really started honing in on that client experience, it helped me to appreciate the value. For me, it's always I'm a big relationship person. Like I love connection. I love connecting with people. And I found that in order to do that, like step one, even just like that questionnaire, and not just, a questionnaire of like, how many kids are in your family or, when's your wedding date? Like, really getting into understand who my clients were as a family, asking them things like, if I were to look in on your family on a Saturday morning, what would I see? And,
Mm,
that's something that I feel like really like would get them thinking like, oh, like, and they're like, this is what this would look like. This is what our Saturday looks like. Or asking them, tell me about the time where you knew you fell in love. And
yeah.
having them be able to really take a few minutes because honestly, we don't take enough time to really think about our own stories. We're so busy and we're just living in it. And so it
Hmm.
becomes background noise. So giving them an opportunity to take 10 minutes to have to really think about who are we and to remember even, I feel like it even stirs some memories that put them in a good place for that photo shoot.
Yeah.
And so starting kind of with that questionnaire, and then for me, actually, I guess I should back up before that. When they inquire, I hop on a phone call. I should have started with that. So I pick up the phone, and that is something I know a lot of people are like, the phone, like I don't want to have to, like actually talk to people.
Right.
Um,
I'm one of those
I can
people.
send it,
I
right,
also don't like talking on the phone, but I will for business. It's cool.
right. And it's like sometimes we can push ourselves a little bit in
Yeah.
in different areas for business. I think, or that's when you get to a point that maybe it's something you can if it's not your thing. But for me, when they inquire, I try within 24 hours, and really like as soon as I can, I try to give them a phone call. They're always shocked. I mean, like 9 out of 10 times, they're like, "Oh, I've never had like a photographer call me." They're just like, "Oh, okay." And so I'm able to really start building in value through that phone call. It's not
Hmm.
long, 10, 15 minutes, but I'm able to start planting those seeds with them, asking them questions like, so when your session is done, what are you hoping to see on your walls? Is there a spot on your walls where you're really like hoping to walk in every day and see this beautiful family portrait of you and your kids? I ask them things like that. Or things like, when you are sitting down and you're looking at your album like a year later, what are you hoping to feel? I'll ask them things like, when's the last time you were able to capture your children, and what is special about them right now in this season that you don't want to forget?
Hmm.
Things like that, that they're like, well, man, like, yeah, I want all of that, like that, and so it stops being about we need a nice picture, and they start thinking about this experience and how it's going to make them feel.
Yeah.
And so I think there's just so much value in making that connection with people.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So much value there. And like that is also setting you apart. I mean, one, like they're surprised that you called them because the other five photographers that they reached out to didn't call them. Like nobody likes talking on the phone anymore. Like
Right.
this is not the 80s where it's like fun and cool and that's how you can connect with your
Right.
friends because there's no social media and all that. It's we it's like, can you just text me, please? Like I feel like that every time I get a call. I'm like, could this have been a text?
Could this have been
uh,
a text? Probably.
could this have been an email? But like that sets you apart too because it shows that you are uh, like you value them. They are not just another booking, another family. It's like, yeah, cool. We'll pick a location. I will show up and take photos. Like this is more to you than just another photo shoot. It is like you're asking those questions because you care about what they want to feel like looking through that album or what images and like moments they picture on hanging on their walls, and you care about the relationships and the quirky characteristics and stuff of their kids at this stage,
Right.
especially young kids. I feel like every 3 months or something, like they're changing and there's
So
something
fast.
new.
Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so fast.
I mean, just the other day, my 4-year-old was like across the room and like we just caught eyes at each other and like she did like this weird like goofy face at me and I was like, you look 13 and
Yep.
also just like such a goofball, and I love this, and like you're not just a little toddler baby anymore.
Right.
Things are changing, and we have our family photos coming up very soon, which I'm excited about.
Yay. I
uh
love that. Love to hear it.
yes, but like that shows that you have more interest in them than just, hey, I'll send the credit card link, go ahead and pay.
Right.
um,
Right.
Kids, I'm going to tell you an incredible story. A story about how I met your mother, and I'll tell it in less than 9 years. Years ago, I used to spend all of my time editing photos and straightening and cropping and color grading. All of my friends thought I was antisocial, but really, I was just overworked. Then I met Imagine AI. Imagine AI looks at the steps that you take from your raw images to your final products, and then they replicate that so everything looks like your edits. And the best part is that they learn more and more and get better after every single photo shoot. Since I've been using Imagine AI, it has saved me over 200 hours of editing time, time that I could spend on other things like going to Super Bowl parties and meeting your mom. So, if you want some extra time in your life, go to allheartphoto.com/AI and get your first 1,500 images edited for free. That's allheartphoto.com/AI and get back your time. See how I didn't fixate on your Aunt Robin? This is how you tell a story. Now back to the show. But no, I love that you get on a phone call. I think that is really underused uh, for the whole photography industry, because
Yeah.
people don't
And
really
I
want
feel
to.
like, well, no, I know that when I started doing that, my like the percentage of leads that were actually booking drastically increased.
Mm,
And I know from talking to several of those families on the phone, I know that had I sent an email, they would not have booked
mm,
because I could tell they started off shopping for prices.
yeah,
And, when it comes to prices, I cannot compete. Like, and I also had to come to that place in my, like that mindset of I'm not competing on price. Like, it's just bottom line. Like, if that's the competition, I'll lose almost every time. And so, getting them away from just that, like, so how much is a shoot? And getting them to start thinking like, well, when you think about a shoot, what does that mean to you? Like, what are you looking for in a photo shoot? What are you wanting? And, I know that it's those phone calls that have helped really convert as opposed to just here's prices. And for some people, all they want is prices. That's fine. But there are a lot of people that I think aren't even aware of what they need until we kind of help guide them.
yeah, yeah. Because all they really know is prices. It's like I don't know what I need, but I know that I'm going to have to spend money, so that's where I'm going to start. It's like
Right.
how much is this? Like they don't know, like they don't know what they don't know,
Right.
and you do. You are the expert in your field because you've been doing this, and you're the professional. So like coming to them with like those questions about what are some characteristics of your kids that you want to see in these photos, that may not have been a thought for them,
Right.
because they were probably thinking, okay, um, wardrobe, we need to find a pretty location, and
Right.
we're looking for, I don't know, under X amount of dollars. And a lot
Right.
of times their budget is just like thrown out there. They're just like, I don't know. I
Right.
had a friend who hired someone for $200, so our budget is $200,
Right.
and like they don't know what to budget. It's like I feel like for me, like going to get like a new computer or something. I just bought a new laptop, and like I'm not like I'm semi tech savvy, but I'm also like I don't know a bunch about like how much RAM I need in a computer. It's like I know
Right.
storage. I know that I need at least a terabyte hard drive,
Right.
but like I'm like I don't know, 16 gigs? Do I need 32 gigs of RAM? And like that kind of stuff. I'm like I went into it having a budget of like I know probably $500. That's what my last laptop was. And then looking at the laptops and like uh, going through talking to people about like this is you know if you're editing photos and video, you need at least 16 gigs of RAM, probably 32 would be better so that
Right.
things go smoothly. I'm like, oh, okay. And like that added, and this laptop was much more than $500,
Right.
and I still spent that because the value was explained to me, and the value of this computer, I was like, oh, this is actually going to be uh, a better product than
Right.
whatever I could get for $500 So
Right.
yeah, I think, talking to them, and not like talking to them of like, let me explain to you why I charge this much,
Right.
because that never
Right.
comes across
Because
well.
that never goes over well, right?
No,
Like
no.
it never does. And they really, the people that, try to price shop you or guilt you, like they didn't really want an explanation anyway. It's like they weren't interested in the value. So, but it's
Hmm.
so hard. It's so tempting to be like, let me tell you, do you know how much my camera costs? And they don't care how much your camera costs.
Oh, yeah.
But
All
you know
those
how much it costs.
those reels that people put together of just like, this is how much my camera costs. This is how much my editing software. This is like, and this is like, 12 grand or something at the end. And I'm like, your clients don't care.
They
They
don't care.
they
They
do
really
not
don't.
care. They're just like, oh wow, you spend a lot of money. All right,
Right. And I
this is
still like
still
that
our budget.
session for 200.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And some people that is all that they can do. Like they have saved and saved for a year, and they've had $200 in their savings account. They're like, we're gonna do this. This is important
Right.
to us to take these photos. And if that is where they are, then they're probably not for you.
Right.
um, but like they still, it's not a value. Like you don't have to explain it and like convince them of the
Right.
value of these photos. They just literally, that is the top of their budget, and that is
Right.
okay. That like
And I
they're.
think as a community, which this isn't, I mean, so much related to your question about client
Mhm.
experience, but I think as a community, we can do a great job of supporting each other. And there have been times where people have reached out and, their budget is not within what I'm able to do, but I know a photographer and I'm like, oh, I know someone
Yeah.
that fits the style you're looking for and in that budget range. Let me refer you. And I think that's something that's so important is, for us to be able to support each other because we're all in different places. And what I need to make might not be what you need to make, and that's okay. So I think, there's something for everybody. I don't think we have to, be these exclusive people that, devalue others based
Yeah.
on what their needs are. So,
No, I agree. That is, I mean, the referral, I mean, referring to other people is just, it is so great for the photography community as a whole. Is just like the whole like rising tide lifts all boats. Like instead of
hmm
just being like, oh, one, you're creating a great client experience for this client, even though they're not your client. Like you're
right,
still showing them that you have a great client experience, that you are for community, you are for them, to help them find the best photographer, even if it's not you. And
right. And you never
that
know
shows.
down the road.
Hmm.
You never know if that person may end up saving and coming back to you at a different time,
Yeah.
but you're making an impression, like your brand, who you are, you always have to be representative, of that brand that you want to portray to people and not treat them any differently, whether or not they're going to go with you or not go with you. You want to always
Hmm.
be creating that experience for people.
Oh yeah, I mean there was a couple who inquired about a wedding, and we talked about it. They loved everything. Like we meshed together really well, but it just wasn't in the budget for them. And it wasn't, every now and then I'll just be like, this feels fun. Like I'm already, this month is already pretty full, so I'll take one on at a discounted rate or
Right,
something, or just like want to help out someone, and I'll do that every now and
right,
then, once or twice a year maybe. But it wasn't one of those uh, for me,
right,
and it just didn't work for us. But I was able to refer them to someone else that was kind of in their price range, somewhat similar personality wise with me, and years later, one of their bridesmaids reached out to me and was like, hey, my friend wanted to work with you years ago, but it just didn't work out. And they really loved how you referred them to their photographer. They loved working with their photographer. And I would love to work with you. And then I ended up booking them and still got to see that other couple later on. And it's just like, that's the kind of character that I want my brand
right.
to be. is I don't want it to just be like, oh well, didn't work out with us, so sorry, I guess go back to Google and find
Right.
someone else. But yeah,
I love that. I
elevating,
love that
yeah,
their friend came. Like
yeah.
I love when things like that happen.
Me too. Yeah. And like that wasn't even like my thought process of like I'm gonna
Right.
help them out. So maybe one of their bridesmaids will come, like that
Right.
was not even the motivation behind it. It was just like I want them to have a great experience
Right.
as a couple in the engaged process and planning and all of that, to just have a great experience, even if it's not with me. But the little part that I get to do is going to be great.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Is there okay? So I love the phone call at the beginning. Set yourself apart. The questions of like diving deeper into
Hmm.
one what they maybe haven't even thought of what they're wanting in the photo shoot. But also I love the uh, like how you ask them about like what photos do you see hanging on the wall, like what are those moments, what do you feel looking through your album in a year, because that's like subtly being, I offer prints, like I'm going to talk to you about an album, and like it's starting at the beginning to where it's not like a weird thing after the photo shoot
Right.
to be like, hey, and I also offer wall art, here are my prices
Right.
for that, and it's like, oh, I hadn't
Right.
even thought about this, but it's like
Right.
you're already getting them
Planting
thinking
those
about it.
seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and also I do a consultation with my families. So I have them come in before their session, to do like what I just call pre-consultation. And I like when both parents, if it's a family that has two parents, I like when both can be there. Sometimes that's not possible and that's fine. Sometimes it's on Zoom if it has to be, but I like them to actually be able to come into the studio. Um, I'm kind of under like remodel right now. You can see there's a lot of prints that I'm
Uh-huh.
starting to kind of go through, and I have a branding session next week, so we're going to be doing a lot of print stuff. But I have them come in one so that I can actually like connect with them because I feel like, especially in Huntsville, I know other cities may be different, but I live in an engineering city. I know Texas has a lot of big science engineering
Yeah, yeah.
places
Here where
as
I
well.
am, Texas A&M, very big into engineering here.
Yes. So a lot of them are very like, and they'll come in and say, "So we're really awkward." Almost every time, that's what they say when they come. They say, "Just so you know, we're very awkward people." And so I think it helps them when we've already gotten through this awkwardness, like before the session starts, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to like literally showing up, like you said, and I'm just here, and I'm like, "All right, I'm gonna take your pictures now." Like I'm able to like face to face connect with them and kind of get a feel for who they are, their little nuances, things that I might want to pick up on or take notes on for the actual session itself. And that really helps. And then I also am able to show them my albums here and able to show them different options. And a lot of times they hold those products and they're like, oh, like these are really not like they're thinking
Yeah,
album like cheap, like
like a
old school, just
Shutterfly, or
right.
yeah, it's like, oh yeah,
Right.
I
They're
made a
not
Shutterfly
thinking.
album a couple years ago with our iPhone photos, and it's like,
Yep. And I'm
this
all
is
about
not
that
it.
for like our day to day like iPhone. I'm like, go ahead, like,
Same.
but like if you're investing in a very nice photo shoot, then you
Mm-hmm.
don't want them just living digitally or living in Shutterfly. Like you want it to be, and so they hold it and they're like, oh, like, well, I want one of those. And so it kind of makes it easier too to serve your client when you know going in what you're shooting for. So I know
Mm-hmm.
like if they like this horizontal wall art and they have a wall for it, like I'm going to make sure to get an amazing shot that's in landscape. Or if I know that they want like this one picture of them and their husband, I'm going to try to get that portrait shot of them that can go in, that frame that I've showed them. So I'm trying to also shoot and cater to what I know they're looking for, and it makes it better on both ends. Like for them, they have a gallery that they're like, "Oh, this is just what I wanted." For me, I can serve them really easily post session without having to. Now I'm trying to figure out like, well, do you want this? Well, do you want this? And then they're overwhelmed. They're like, I don't even know what I want, you know?
Right. Oh yeah, yeah. No, getting them to feel and see and just like look through things, like holding a good quality print is like a lot of people have never done that. A lot of people have
Right.
just, I don't know, we print our photos at CVS and they come out all
At CVS.
curled
Yep.
and just, and that's fine. Like I have prints.
I have a
Well,
CVS print too, though. I'm
I
gonna just tell you,
yeah,
it's true. Like I have
yeah,
one. It's fine.
yeah.
Like,
I
you know,
have some. There are
there's a place.
times there's yeah, and a lot of times those are like iPhone photos. I'm like, yeah, we're just gonna do this quickly. But like, there's something about holding that like good quality print. It's like, oh, this is different. I want
Hmm.
this. This is not something that I've had, and maybe they've done other photo shoots with other photographers and didn't have that, or they were just kind of like a churn and burn kind of like, here you go, here's digital files, you can figure out what to do with that, which is also just like that analysis paralysis of like, we can figure out what, I don't even know what to do. They came into like, they don't know, again, your clients don't know what they don't know, and maybe
Right.
they don't know where to print photos, they don't know, and that takes them to CVS because they're just like, it's here, I've seen that they have 1 hour photo, that's good, what I'm going to do. And
Right.
like, they don't know where to print albums or how to design an album that flows well and like
Right.
has a good feel to it. And like, there's a lot, maybe they don't have the time to
And it's the
they
time. I think a
yeah.
lot, like we had
Hmm.
family photos done a few years ago, and it took us a year and a half to actually sit down, and we started the process probably a dozen times, and then we kept getting distracted and busy, and we
Yeah.
finally like took a day and we're like, we're not getting out of this off of this table from this table until we've ordered these pictures for our walls. And
Yeah.
you know, and I know like had that photographer offered print like custom print services, I would have done it. Even though I can do it on my own, I would have done it because I knew it would get done
Hmm.
and you know it would be valuable. And I have a client now that's been with me a few years, and you know she said all the shoots before yours, we've never printed anything. Like I'm so grateful that finally we have these like beautiful pictures on the walls because they're both full-time working parents with toddler young children. They just don't have time to
Yeah.
stare at hundreds of options. And so
Yeah.
I think we can serve people. It's not being salesy, and it's not pushing them to buy something they don't want. It really is helping to service them in a way that they want but don't know how to even express.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it. Like, they want this, and they maybe don't know how to express it, or maybe they think they know because they've made a Shutterfly album in the past and it was fine. And like, that's the only album that they've ever held, and they were just like, yeah, this is good. It's like they're
Right.
bound together, cool album. And like, they don't know what you offer because they're just like, this is what my mind thinks of for an album. I didn't even know it could look like this or feel like
Right.
this. And like, that whole experience, like, you're just leaving them with the knowledge that they have instead of being, um, a resource for them to serve them and just like allow their photos to be, just better than
Yeah.
than like a digital file somewhere that they're just like uploading to social media or have as the background on their phone, but then that's it. It's living and
Right.
dying on devices, and then we all know how those go, and crashed hard drives, and it's like, oh man, I wish I would have printed those photos or
Right.
had them
Absolutely.
somewhere tangibly. Like, you think about like your grandparents' photos and like going through bins and shoeboxes full of just old printed photos, which yeah, back then that's all you had.
Right.
But like they also had, they didn't print everything. They had the negatives, and I'm sure there was
Yep.
a bunch of photos on there that they're like, not that one, but yes, let's get an enlargement of this
Yep.
one, and all that. But like if those had just lived on a USB drive somewhere, you would never see those
You
photos
never see
of,
them.
yeah.
Mm-mm.
And like that is something that I think in the digital age we forget about a lot, and our clients
Yes.
forget about. That it's just like, oh no, they're gonna be here. It's fine. Like
Right.
my iCloud has, stuff backed up from like 2010. It's cool. And
Right.
but like that's also, it's not your storage. It is
It's not.
iCloud.
Yeah.
And one day they could just be like, you know what? We're just going to get rid of this. Or maybe,
Right.
something happens and they get hacked or whatever, and like you lose your photos, or just something happens and there's like a glitch in the cloud, and now your folder is empty, and all of those
Right.
years and moments and memories are just memories now.
Yep.
And yeah, I love that you said like it's not salesy, because it can feel salesy a lot to talk about
Right.
albums, to talk about prints, to like those kind of add-ons, almost like it's like, hey, I got you in at my base level, which is like the sitting fee and the photo shoot price. Now let me get more of your money, because
Right.
I need more money. And
Right.
instead changing that mindset from, this is salesy, they're gonna think that I'm just trying to get their money, but coming to them with like, hey, this is something that I offer, that like, let me show it to you, let me explain, like this is going to serve you a lot better than
Right.
just having them on your phone.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of, you mentioned about, if the cloud disappears. And I think that's something to think about with even like client experience. I know last week, it was like everybody was really up in arms about TikTok last week and
Yep.
it shutting down because for a lot of people, they've built their entire businesses, on that platform. And, that's kind of also something that you can do in your businesses, have means to connect with your clients that aren't based on someone else's platform. And having your email lists, and that's just one small way of elevating client experience, because what I'm able to do with my email list is set up workflows. And so because I don't have time to remember, like, to follow up with people, 2 months or
Yeah.
6 months, or it's an anniversary. Like, I'm not going to keep up. I don't even hardly know what day it is, especially homeschooling. We live in like a vortex of time. And so I'm able to set up those workflows that says, like, after session, like 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, send this email that says, hey, I'm thinking about you. I'm checking on you. How are things going with your pictures? Anything new in your life with your kids that you're celebrating right now? And just, there's no invitation necessarily to book anything. It's just hey, I'm here and I care about you post session, like not just this one time thing. And
Hmm.
so you can do things like that, set them on auto repeat, like to where your hands don't have to be in it, but it's just giving that next level of service.
Yeah. Yeah. That really shows that you care, and that it wasn't just like, all right, well, you paid for your session, now I'm off
Right.
to the next person to try and get them to pay me. And like that will elevate that experience to where maybe they aren't in a place to print, or maybe they already printed a lot with you right after, and it's just like a good reminder of like, oh yeah, yeah, that's really nice to hear from Tiffany. Yeah, this is what the kids are doing, blah blah blah, this is what we
Right.
have planned for the summer, and that kind of stuff. But it also keeps you top of mind. So if a friend of theirs is like, oh yeah, we're starting to think about doing like maybe a summer family session or something, they're like, oh, I just got an email from our photographer, you should check out her, like she did a great job, that album on our coffee table, that's hers. And like that kind of stuff, like it's more than just selling. It's more than just
Right.
a another connection point. It is like it's showing them that they matter to you and that you're a business that that matters. Like you
Yeah.
care for your clients.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I love that. Do you have any like last steps or tips or anything for the listeners to, I mean, you've already like shared a ton, which is so great, like so many things to implement. Any last things about like elevating that client experience and building that connection?
Yeah. I just think, with anything, it's like just start. Like,
Mm,
don't let overwhelm or feeling like, okay, like I can't do all of these things or, right now. I think one thing that helps to do regularly in your business is to even walk through like start to finish, what is a process? So like if someone were to schedule a session with you tomorrow, write out every touch point with that client from start until delivery of images. And because we don't often think about the little tiny things in between, like, we're like, oh yeah, well, I book them and then I do the shoot, but there's a lot in between. And so I think if you lay out start to finish your process, you can even go in and start refining, like seeing, okay, where are points that I'm serving clients really well? Or, man, there's a big gap between this step and this step. And I think I could
mhm.
put one thing in here that would really just take my customer service a little bit higher. So just taking some time to do some reflection and really looking at what your process is and then seeing where can you just stick in a few little things that will make a big difference to your client.
Yeah, I love that. And like that is, I did that once and I was so surprised at how many touch points there were and how many steps just from inquiry coming in to gallery delivered, uh, like how many individual steps there were. And like, I think anyone who hasn't done that, you're going to be surprised of just like, oh, I'm doing a lot.
I'm
Um,
doing a lot. Like,
yeah,
yes.
and like there's a lot of different places that you can just kind of like bump it up, just like a little baby step even of, maybe instead of, just kind of generic email here, you could, bring it up a notch or something. uh, and
Yeah.
that also like there's that saying of like a great client experience is like smooth. So any friction is going to cause a worse client experience. Any like time
Right.
that you're getting the questions of just like, hey, so where are we meeting or whatever. Any time that there are those questions and like going through that list of all your touch points, you could see like, oh, well, I do get a lot of people asking, like, hey, just wanted to make sure we're still on for tomorrow's photo shoot. It's like, I should probably
Right.
add one in here that's just like, hey, so excited for our photo shoot next week. It's,
Right.
just a reminder, we're going to meet at this time at this location. So excited. If you have any questions, whatever, here's a link to my style guide if you still don't know what clothes you're going to wear. Like those kind of things to elevate that experience and also like smooth out any friction that they might have.
Yep.
That helped me a
Absolutely.
ton whenever I went through and I was like, oh, there's like places that I could like
There's gaps.
really
Yeah.
bump
You
this
see
up.
gaps where you're like, oh,
Hmm.
I should have communicated that. Like, I need to
Yeah,
throw that in there for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Or especially like when in wedding photography, because a lot of times people will book like a year in advance, and it's like, oh, we have like months without any communication.
Mm,
What
gotcha.
can I add in here? What can I just like
Right.
send them a little resource or a link to an article that I found one year and just like have that automated email already set up. You do it once and now it's just like it's
On
serving
repeat.
them while you're having your coffee in the morning. But
Absolutely.
no, I love that. That is a really great exercise to do. So awesome. Well, Tiffany, this has been really fun. Very great
Good.
conversation.
Yay.
Before we kind of wrap up and let people know where they can follow you, there's part of the show that I like to do where we talk about what we're loving this week. And it can be literally anything book, TV show, movie, a new food, whatever. What are you loving this week?
So I just started, I know this is gonna maybe shock, like be like shameful, but I just got an Audible account. I finally gave
Nice.
in. I have been a big like it's not a book if it isn't pages that you're flipping. But
Yeah.
also with that means that I'm not reading much because I have a bunch of kids. So I finally gave in and I've been like, oh, this is really nice. Like I'm driving and I'm almost done with a book. Like after just like a week or so, I'm like not taking a year to read something. This is kind of amazing. So that's
Hmm.
I've
I love
joined the
audiobooks.
Audible cult.
Yes, yeah. I was also the same way for a long time of just like, no, I need the physical copy. I want to like have the bookmark in there and but I found myself not reading a ton and I was like I pretty much only read whenever I'm on an airplane and if I'm like sitting at the beach. But also, I'm
Right.
very an active person at the beach too, so I don't. It's just like after I'm completely winded from trying to body surf, and then I come back, I'm like, okay, now I'll read a chapter. But yeah,
Right.
it was taking like months and months and months to go through a pretty short book.
Yeah.
Plus, I have that thing where you're like reading, and then you're like, wait, did I already read this? And I got to go back up,
Yep.
and then it's like I don't know, I'm confused
Yep.
now, and I'm gonna put this down. But no, audiobooks are great. Plus, I always love it whenever the author narrates the book, and you
Yes.
can hear like their inflection and their like the Mel Robbins' new book, the Let Them Theory. It's great. Like she has, the Mel Robbins podcast, so you like familiar with the way that she talks
Right.
and like through the book like she'll just like make different like sound effects and things. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, this is a much
You're like,
better
I like it.
experience. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
good. But yeah, no, I love we got the whole audible membership subscription whatever. It's great. We've got all the fiction and all the nonfiction books, all the I have like my business books,
Your
and then I
business. Yep.
have all the fiction, like Blake Crouch kind of dark stories of just weird psychological things. Um, that's great. Let's
Yeah.
see. I'm loving. Uh, what am I loving? I'm loving the show Silo. There's a second season
Okay.
out now. It's on Apple TV Plus. It's a really interesting, weird story of it's like that like post apocalyptic kind of
Okay.
timeline. They built a community in a silo, like hundreds of stories deep into the earth, and you kind of like the show starts with these people who have been in this silo for their entire lives, and like it's been generations and generations since anyone has been outside, and
Oh.
it's just there's a lot of like you're learning stuff about the community and about like wait, is it really toxic air outside, or is that just what we're being told to keep us in
Right.
here? Are there other silos out there? Are there other people? And just like those questions start popping up, and it's really interesting. The first season was really good, and the second season has been pretty great too. My One of my favorite actors who like hasn't been doing a lot recently is Steve Zahn. Uh,
Okay. I don't think I know him. I might know him if I
he's
saw him though.
or like if you heard him, he's got like that voice of kind of like he talks like this, and he was in like You've Got Mail and Joyride and stuff.
Okay.
You'd probably recognize him, but he shows up in this season, so I was like, Steve's on, cool, I like you.
Nice.
But yeah, it's an
We'll have to check
interesting.
that one out. My husband loves that kind of stuff, so I'll have to
Cool.
let him know.
Yeah,
Add it to our late
it's
night laundry folding list.
yes, yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one for that. You don't like it is visually like there's a lot of interesting things, but a lot of like the dialogue and stuff. It's like I don't have to be watching this to
Like
actually
fully.
like
Right.
follow along. Because
Right.
like some of those shows, I'm like I need to be watching this because there's a lot. um,
Right.
but But yeah, well, Tiffany, this has been great. I have really enjoyed this. Where can people find you online, follow along, and say hey?
Yeah, so the best place to find me would be over on Instagram at Animal House Photography. So they can go and follow and shoot me a message. I'd love to connect, and if I can, help them with this client experience part in any way, definitely reach out.
Awesome. Well, sweet. I will have that linked in the show notes for everyone. And yeah, Tiffany, this has been fun. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Wisdom and the Tangents podcast. As always, you can check out all the things in the show notes at podcast.allheartphoto.com. This episode was number 240, and we also have a bunch of free resources over there for you, like cost of doing business calculators and templates for we talked about it today, those initial inquiry nurturing steps in all the emails. I have templates for the first few in my nurturing sequence. So you can go grab those. They're all for free. But yeah, thank you for listening. If you have not already, share this with a friend. You can share directly from whatever podcast player you're listening to, or go to our Instagram, wit.pod, witt.pod, and just share like one of the reels or a post or something from this episode to someone you think would love it. And I would love it too. I love to see that and just comment with y'all and DM back and forth. It's this is all about community. That's why we record these live, so that y'all can be in here and ask questions and just be part of it too. So, but anyway, I will see you next episode for Wisdom and the Tangents podcast. Bye, y'all. Cheers. I think you're actually supposed to cheers. Just taking out the microphone. Okay, there we go.